You can survive almost on any income. And what I mean by that, if you would live within your income in terms of your means, then you can be assured that you will have some stability in your family. It's just often that our spending habits exceeds our income because we want a bigger house and a late model car, and we want the fanciest clothes and the best furniture and the best electronics. And so we extend ourselves sometimes beyond our income. And as long as we have a stable job with a income that we can be assured of, we maintain this lifestyle. And the reason we can maintain the lifestyle because what we basically do is we just pay out every week everything we make. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you're content with living above your mean, that's fine. But what happens if you lose your employment? Do you have anything to fall back on? Did you save anything? Did you have a plan just in case you get laid off? Or just in case your company closed. See, in many cases, it had nothing to do with how good a worker you were. A lot of these companies closed down. And many didn't close down because they were not productive. They closed down because they was bought out by some other company, larger company, who decided that they may or may not want to keep this part of the company open simply because it does not make as much money as some other part. And so it's not based on your skills or anything else, the reason you may lose your job. It's just simply that with all these mergers, someone may merge. In other words, there may be 7 or 8 companies owned by one entity and someone by that entity, and they decide that they don't want to be in apparels anymore, and so they will close a productive plant down that has nothing to do with the production nor the employees. They just have decided that they can make more money with the other entities inside the close that particular, and you can be affected directly, and it has nothing to do with your job skills nor the fact that people are not still buying those clothes. People are still buying clothes, but now they're getting them overseas because they can find cheaper labor. And so that's the instability we have now in our economy. And so if we know that's true, and we should know that's true, and then we ought to make individual provisions to make sure that if that happens to us, that we can still sustain ourselves and maintain a certain standard of living until we are able to find another job, or if we get sick, that we can maintain our lifestyle at least a marginal period of time before we have to radically change our lifestyle. So what I want to share with you is a financial plan that has blessed me for some years. My brother introduced this plan to me some years ago. And I've been on and off the plan just about all my life. But for the last, I'll say, 14 years, I've been consistent with the plan. I've taught this plan for years, and I've got the testimony of many people who have been blessed as a result of this plan. Now, I'm not telling you that this is the only plan. I'm not telling you that this is the best plan. I'm telling you this is a plan, and you need a plan. Now, you may already have a plan. That's great. I'm not telling you to change your plan for this plan. But those of you who have no plan, who have made no arrangement for if the possibility comes that you lose your job or you get sick, I'm telling you, you need a plan. And so I'm going to introduce you to this plan that I've been using for years. I've passed it out for years. And from testimonies, I've heard a lot of people say they was blessed as a result of this plan. And I'm praying that if you don't have a plan, that you might consider this plan and that it may also be a blessing to you. So now I'm going to turn to the plan itself. So here's the financial plan that I've been using for years. So listen what it says at the top. How to obtain financial stability in 5 years or less. My scripture reference is Malachi 3:7-12 and Matthew 23:23. This plan will work whether you are a Christian or not. So it's not based on the fact of whether you're a Christian. it works better if you're a Christian because we have added a section which is known as the tithe. And I will talk to you about the tithe. So here's the way the plan works. If you're a Christian, the first 10% should go to the Lord because God has claimed 10% of the earth increase. And so 10% of what you make if you're a Christian, it belongs to the Lord. So the scripture says in Malachi, when a man rob God, you can only rob someone of what is theirs. And so when you use your tithe for other things, then you have robbed God. And remember, it says tithes and offerings. The next step is saving. You need to pay yourself. You need to pay yourself. And that becomes your saving. And it ought to be at least 10% of your income. The third part is that what you can afford in terms of mortgage and rental is about 20 to 25% of your income. And I mean the income of your household. So if your wife is working, you add both of your incomes together. And basically what you take home in 1 week is what you can comfortably afford for your either apartment or if you're purchasing a house. You should pay about 20% for those monthly installment bills that comes in that you have optional. And many of these bills are bills that you've brought on yourself because of clothes and entertainment and buying other things. And then the last part, it leaves you 40 if you only use 20% for housing, or 35 if you use a different one. And then what happened is that if you follow this plan, now let me go back up to the plan because I want you to get the beginning of it. You start off with the tithe, which is 10%. You pay yourself, that's 10%, that's your saving. Your housing, rental, or whether you're buying, should be about somewhere between 20 and 25% of your income. Your bills that you pay on a consistent basis should not exceed over 20% of your monthly income. That leaves you 40 to 35%. If you use 20% for your housing, you'll have 40%. If you use 25% for your housing, you'll have 35% for your income. Now remember what I told you. I'm not telling you this is the only plan. I'm not even telling you this is the best plan. I'm telling you it's a plan, and everybody needs a plan. So I want you to look at it again. And I'll tell you that this plan will work even if you're not a Christian. I'm saying that if you're a Christian and you tithe the first part, it just worked better because that's a promise from God. Okay, so I'm going to switch back now, and I'll tell you how and it may surprise you how I got this plan. I got this plan because my brother told me about it, but now the plan actually came from a book that is known as The Richest Man in Babylon. Did anything good come out of Babylon? Well, remember that if something is a truth, it really doesn't matter where it comes from. All truths come from God. All truths come from God. So let me tell you how this plan is written up in The Richest Man in Babylon. There was a man who decided he needed a plan for stability. And so he came up with the concept that he was going to save 10% of everything he made. But there was a rule of thumb with the 10%. And the rule of thumb was that he would only spend this 10% on something that would maintain or increase in value. In other words, his goal was to keep this 10% with him at all times. So he had to be selective as to what he would spend or what he would buy with this 10%. And so he couldn't have bought, and now remember we talking about Babylon, but I want to extrapolate it to today. So you can't buy clothes, and you can't buy records, you can't buy furniture, you can't buy cars, because those things will not increase in value. Matter of fact, they're going to depreciate as soon as you walk out the store. We're only talking about the 10% now. You could buy precious metals, which may go up or down, or you can buy land, which usually go up, or you can put some in the stock market. It's a little risky. You can get an annuity, which is a little more stable. But their whole purpose is to invest this money in something that will maintain an increase in value. Even if you put it in a saving account that pay you 1.2% interest, it will maintain an increase in value. Now, I've told you about the other part about housing But now let's talk about this 10%. The whole goal is to become financially stable in 5 years or less. So how can one become financially stable in 5 years or less with this plan? If you save 10% of your yearly income for 5 years, it will be equivalent to 50% of what you make in any 1 year. Let me repeat that. If you save 10% of your annual income each year for 5 years, at the end of the 5 years, you should have 50% of your yearly income in saving. Now, you may have more because the rule of thumb is that you can only spend it on something that maintains an increase in value. So even if you, let's just say you just use a regular saving account and it gave you at least 1%. So now that's 5%. So the 50% was increased by 5%. So you have the 50% plus the 5% you made from the saving account. Now, once you get to that point, once you have 50% of your income in saving, you can consider yourself financially stable, not financially secure, financially stable. What do we mean by financially stable? This means that if you lose your job, you have 6 months income that you can maintain your standard of living for 6 months until you find another job. So you got 6 months to seek other employment. Let's say you get sick and you can't go to work. You have 6 months to recover. Remember, I didn't say you become financially secure. I say you become financially stable. If you talk to most financial analysts, they will teach you that if you can get 50% of your income in a saving account, you can consider yourself financially stable. So how can a working person, an average person now, that just make regular wages, how can he end up with 50% of his income in saving by saving 10% a year? Now, I know people say, I can't do that. There's no way I can afford. I use every dime. Listen to me. There's not a person on earth that cannot reduce their expenses by 10%. You may have to get your hair fixed every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. You may have to go to less movies. You may have to eat out less. In other words, if you really want to do this, I'm telling you right now, it can be done, but you have to have a desire yourself that this is what you want to do. Okay, now, so we've got the 50% in saving, and now we said how you need to use the 50% in order to keep it with you, all right? I'm sorry for the interruption, but I got a phone call, and people don't know you on live. We're going to have to find a way to show them that we're on live. Okay. But now, how do you get in this mood of saving? In the Babylonian days, they saved with coins, and he had a leather pouch. And what he would do, when he got 10%, he would drop it into a leather pouch. And he kept dropping coins into the leather pouch until he finally got what he classified as a jingle. And when you reach the jingle, saving become easier. Now, the jingle different with different people. Now, when I first started doing this, and I actually started this probably a good 25 years ago, maybe longer than that. It's probably about 30. Literally, it's been about 40 years ago when I first started this plan. So my jingle, how did I get the jingle? My jingle came when I first got $500 in my saving. Once I saved to $500, I was hooked on saving. It became easier for me to save. It may vary with you, but somewhere in the process of saving, you're going to hit a number. You're going to get a certain amount in your saving account where you're going to say to yourself, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. That's your jingle. And I promise you, once you feel that jingle, once you reach the jingle, I promise you that it becomes easier and easier for you to save. My jingle was $500 now. My jingle now is $5,000. You know, when I can maintain $5,000, I try to keep $5,000 in my saving account at all times. That's my goal. I'm not quite at 5 now because some emergencies came up and I had to use the money. My air conditioner went out in my car and I need tires for my truck. But I had the money because I'm financially stable. So I had money to go without borrowing money, without taking out loans. And so since I am financially stable, I was able to use it. Now remember, I couldn't use the rule, and why? Because the things I had to purchase did not maintain or increase in value, but because of the stability of my income, I had money to go to.